One important set of systems you need to consider are arrival and dismissal systems. And honestly, you need to think about these every year, whether you're a brand new teacher starting in a new school or a new classroom, or you're in the same place you've been for years, because these need constant attention and tweaking. Children who do not have a smooth arrival, that can, just derail the whole day for some children. And if dismissal does not go well, then you can have children going home to their parents unhappy or not in a good state of mind, which isn't the sort of message you want parents getting about their children's time at school. So these are two important systems that you need to consider. And it does take some reflection and communication with the school about how you go about this. I've worked at small schools where parents brought their children to the door. I've worked at larger schools where there's a car line and a kind of elaborate system for arrival and dismissal where the children have to walk into school on their own. So you first have to know what your school system is, the broader systems in place that affect how you manage that arrival in your classroom. So think about arrival. How does the child get to school? How do they walk through the school and head toward your classroom? And there's just a number of questions for you to consider for your own arrival system. What do the children need to do first when they get to the classroom? Do they change their shoes to hang up their coat? All of those sorts of things. Where does that happen? How does it happen? What are the expectations for that? How do they enter the classroom? Do they have to gather any other things before they do that? What's the first thing they should do when they arrive in the classroom? I tended not to greet children at the door. That can sometimes feel like a sort of high stakes pressure situation. Imagine if your boss greeted you at the door every day when you came to work. It can simply be a greeting, but there can be a tendency as a teacher, as a guide, to want to say, "Good morning, what do you think you're going to do today?" And a lot of children need to just transition into the classroom and settle before they can immediately be confronted with that kind of question. Similarly to how we adults probably don't want that question first thing from our bosses when we walk through the door in the morning. So think about how you want children to come in and how you want them to begin to start their day. And often there's going to be some socializing, just like there is at any adult workplace. When you see each other in the morning, people might greet each other or chit chat, and that's going to happen with the children too. Then think through how you guide them do they get their work journal and write in it? How do they move about the start of their day? So think through all those questions for your own arrival procedures. Then you also need to think about dismissal. If dismissal's at 3:30, that means that you need to have the children cleaning up and sort of ready to walk out the door before 3:30. So when do you need to end the work period? What does that look like? My expectation is always that the room is ready to be left at the end of the day. That means everything is tidy, put back where it belongs. Everything is clean, organized, and beautiful, ready for the next day. So that means children need to have some time to make that transition. So you want to have some procedures for getting the classroom put back into order, because we all know it can get relatively disorderly throughout the day. And then you need to have the procedures of, how do they move on to whatever happens after school. Some children may go home. Some children may be staying in your school's aftercare program. How does that work? How do you get the children where they need to go? And how does that happen respectfully and in a relatively orderly fashion? So think through all of those questions based on your own school situation so that children then are comfortable and safe heading out the door and heading for home. So arrival and dismissal can really impact your day and the children's day beyond. Arrival affects the day in the classroom, and dismissal affects the children's time the rest of the day. So giving some careful thought to how you can make these move smoothly and successfully for the children is an important part of the systems you need to consider in your classrooms.